This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Tech Show 110, recorded on March 28th, 2013. Here on Home Tech, we cover all your favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home, news, reviews, product updates, and conversations, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in Bellevue, Nebraska, and we post the show with world-class show notes each week out at the AverageGuy.tv. If you have questions or comments, even contributions for the show, you can contact me. Just send me an email, podcast@theaverageguy.tv. You can track me down on Twitter at jcollison or follow the show schedule at our Twitter account, just at the Average Guy TV. You can also join us for live chat during the show. It's going on right now at the AverageGuy.tv live. If you're watching, we were just chatting about this before the show. If you're watching on live stream, the chat will be right to your right there on the screen. I think that's to your right. No, actually, I think it's the other way. That way, to your right. And if you're watching on YouTube, it'll just be directly above you in the live stream chat. And you can go to livestream.com/theaverageGuyTV. There's a pop-out feature with the chat there. So if you want to put that in a totally separate window and have that somewhere else, you can do that. And then we were just testing before the show, Mike Howard and I, and on most mobile devices, if you head out to the AverageGuy.tv/live and click play on the YouTube player, it will work for you. So you can watch this live on YouTube from here on out if you want to do that as well on your mobile device. Of course, this show and all the past shows are available out at theaverageguy.tv or on youtube.com/theaverageguy.tv. All right, well, just got back from Germany, and appreciate you guys coming out tonight. Originally, I had scheduled not to do a show, and we decided to go ahead and pull one off tonight. And I should be tired and I should be jet lagged, but I am not, and for whatever reason. So I sent a note out to the guys and said, who wants to join me for a podcast where we talk about tech travel? And both Mike Howard and Paul Braren have decided to jump in today and talk about that. Mike, good to see you. How are you?
And fine. You're saying actually you're more coherent than usual, Jim.
Might be.
Maybe the travel has helped you out.
Might be. I did get some rest. I took some time off. We didn't travel the whole time we were over there. But I got a lot in, and we're going to talk about some of I'll show you some of the pictures I took and with the technology that we used, and that'll come up as well. And then, of course, Paul Braren is with us, and Paul, I know, has been a road warrior and spent a lot of time on the road with tech. Paul, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, great to be here, Jim, and looking forward to talking about some of the trials and tribulations of life on the road, both for work and personal trips.
Yeah, you bet. Well, let's get right to it. I'll start just kind of by working through some of the trip that I did, and then, Paul, we can jump in and talk about some of the, maybe the weekly. This was a long, transcontinental trip. I know a lot of the business stuff the guys do here in the United States is maybe a couple days at a time, and that maybe you prepare for that a little different, maybe you don't, but so last Tuesday, I got up early here in Omaha and took a flight out to Denver, and then flew Denver nonstop from Denver to Frankfurt, and flew Lufthansa, which, by the way, just dynamite. If you get a chance, if you're flying into Europe, and you guys can now see some windows popping up there in the live stream, but if you're flying into to anywhere in Europe, Lufthansa was just dynamite. One of the things I did notice, though, their tech is not they're not the most up to date on their tech. The planes are a little bit older, and when we went over there, we still had the old school a single monitor up in the cabin, or I guess they had two monitors up in the cabin, so everybody had to watch just one movie that was going on. It wasn't great. I brought a lot of tech with me. I brought two phones, which, by the way, keeping track of two phones is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, especially as you move around. There were a couple times I left phones in places and had to go back and get them, or it fell out of, it slipped down in the rental car, and I went to grab one phone, and you have to kind of remember to take the second one. I spent most of the trip with the Lumia 900. So I bought this up from Chris Lux about 6 or 7 months ago with the intent of taking it over there just for GPS pictures, and then I was going to purchase a SIM card for it. And that was kind of the tech that I used most of the time that I was over there. I did not really, I didn't carry the laptop with me when I was moving around. I spent, the days were mostly, we arrived on a Wednesday morning, and then you try and do everything you can do to stay awake until Wednesday night. And let me back that up a little bit. So I woke up, I went to bed, you're super tired because you try and sleep overnight when when you're on the plane and you get there. And so super tired, trying to stay awake. Finally, by 9 o'clock, I'm like, okay, I just got to go to bed. So I laid down, got to sleep right away, woke up at midnight. Oh, crap. Right. Oh, crap. This isn't going to work. And I couldn't, when you're not going to go back to sleep, right? You know that. Say that again.
What city were you in?
We were in Frankfurt. So I think they are 6 hours ahead of the Central Time Zone.
Okay.
So, it was one of those kinds of things. I woke up and I'm like, I'm not going back to sleep. And a little bit of a panic because I thought, what am I going to do for the next 6 hours? Right. And so I logged in I opened my laptop and logged in, and actually, since it was Wednesday, Dave was doing the home server show. Yeah. And so I jumped in over there and listened to that, and kind of caught some guys in chat and was talking to some folks, and we were kind of going back and forth on Skype. The bandwidth in Germany is terrible. Almost everywhere you go.
But how is beer?
It's awful. Now, the beer is the inverse of that. So the beer is delicious, and we drank a few of those while we were there. By the way, it's cheap too. If you're going to buy that, you go into the stores, it's cheaper. Beer's cheaper there than it is here, and you get more of it, and it's better. So it was.
Now, what type of bandwidth was it? Wireless G?
Well, we were picking up Wi-Fi. We stayed in a guest house, and we were picking up just a Wi-Fi signal that was kind of just up a ways, and it wasn't very good. But when I say their bandwidth or their wireless is terrible, today we expect you go in anywhere. I mean, I went to Applebee's for lunch today, and it's free Wi-Fi. Just logged in with my phone and was doing some things. There's no such thing as free Wi-Fi there. I couldn't find it anywhere except Starbucks. So the Starbucks in the airport at Frankfurt, the Starbucks in the train station in Frankfurt, and then there's a few other Starbucks around. I didn't test them all. We did go to the one in Heidelberg, and that one worked as well. But Starbucks seemed to be about the only place that I could find free Wi-Fi in the country. So that was that was sketchy. I just couldn't. Now I had just enough bandwidth where I was staying in the guest house to be able to do instant messaging, and the up was awful. So trying to do a voice conversation was terrible, and then down was enough that I could listen to like the audio and a little bit of the video from Home Server Show on Wednesday night. So I jumped in there. Again, a lot of the listeners here also listen to the Home Server Show, and had an opportunity to dialogue with some of you. But I waited till about 2 a.m. and then went back, tried to go back to bed, and actually was successful getting a couple hours sleep. So that went well. Thank goodness I took the laptop with me and at least had something to do. Because if I'd had no internet at that point, I might have killed myself. I was thinking, oh God, what am I going to do for 6 hours? We're so dependent on that technology to get that done, and to have something to do. So. But there is no, having free Wi-Fi, even in the rest stops on the Autobahn, you would think, okay, they'll offer some kind of free or even paid. No, not really. It's not very good.
The rest stops, you don't have that here, though, do you? Wi-Fi on the rest stops?
Yeah, at least here in Nebraska, most of the rest stops now are wired so that you can get Wi-Fi at the rest stop as well.
I did not know that, because usually, maybe because I live down in the when I'm going to Louisiana, which is about as foreign as Germany. When you're going down to Louisiana, there's you're lucky you have roads, and there's no Wi-Fi in the rest stops that I know of.
Yeah, Paul, East Coast, you're a Boston area guy, New York, Boston. Is Wi-Fi pretty prevalent in most of the places you go to?
Well, on the road, it's just using the cellular from my car for streaming or listening to podcasts and all that. But when I get to a customer destination, no, I'm often barred from Wi-Fi. I got to bring my own.
Okay.
So there's rarely a guest Wi-Fi in some of the big honking data centers I visit.
Sure.
And I've been used to bringing my own for a good decade.
You're talking a customer location, but what about like someplace to eat?
Like
I'm not
Waffle
sure.
House, so to speak.
Yeah, I tend to just stay on the cellular. I mean, now, well, we're getting spoiled with LTE, so I
Yeah.
mean, why would I want
Yeah.
to? I'm fine.
No, you know, you're
Yeah.
right. You're in a situation that you've, you know, for it makes sense for you to carry your own hotspot, and that you have 4G LTE, which is great. And so why are you going to attach to anybody's Wi-Fi, right?
Yeah, from Boston all the way to DC, you're right. We're pretty much blanketed with 4G, and that's been almost for 2 years now. So we're spoiled. Yeah, pretty much everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Even on the train, you know, it's pretty good.
Well, imagine the worst Wi-Fi in the country, and that's the way it is most in Germany for most places. That's just not a priority for them in what they're doing, and they don't really care. They're kind of like, why? Why would you do that? I don't understand why you know.
Jim, 2 weeks ago, I was driving through the Big Dig Tunnel under Boston. You're like 3 miles under, you know, you're underground for about 3 miles, and I was listening to you live, streaming. You were doing it, and
nice.
I only lost 2 seconds dropout in 3 miles. Wow. Verizon's got some antennas under here. It's impressive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's that good.
Now, Jim, you say Wi-Fi is bad. Did the hotel have any wired options?
No, there was no wired option there. And I was staying a little bit of a unique situation because my nephew goes to a seminary there, and we were staying on the seminary grounds. So they have a guest house that we were staying in, and very, very Spartan. Is that the right word? Very Spartan in not just the basic necessities, and no wired. So I was completely dependent on the wireless to make that work, but struggled with well, and then let me say I also had intended to take the Lumia over there and purchase an O2, which is one of the carriers over there that works with AT&T phones, and I was going to purchase an O2 data plan. And so I'd actually found an O2 shop, and for 10 euros, which is $12, let's just say $13, I could get a gig worth of data for the week that I was there, which I thought was a great deal. I'm like, okay, that sounds good. A gig is fine. I just need a little, I need a little bit of a data, and then if I had an emergency, I could use Skype to call somebody or do those kinds of things. I have a Skype plan that would allow me to do that. And so I went to the store and I found out I thought Chris Lux had unlocked the phone, and he had not. And so I didn't do the research. It wasn't unlocked. So it wouldn't work. He put the SIM in, and the guy said, no, it's not unlocked. And I thought, oh, I'm never going to get this unlocked from here. And so I didn't even try. So I have an O2 SIM that has some time on it. If anybody's going to Europe, you can let me know. I can send it with you.
Have you gotten an email, Jim, from Cox bragging about their local Wi-Fi? I looked at my town. I couldn't believe it. Within 3 miles of my house, I mean, hundreds of access points.
No.
For whatever reason, Cox is advertising.
Not here.
Use our Wi-Fi when you leave the house.
Yeah, no, not here.
Oh, okay.
I've never paid attention to what this whole GSM, whatever else, CDMA. I have no idea what my phone is. So you said you brought 2 phones.
Yeah.
Lumia was what?
So that is GSM, right? That's international.
What's it?
And the Sprint phone, the Android phone, is CDMA. I think I have those right. Those, that is proprietary to the United States. So Sprint was off. I could only use the Sprint phone in Wi-Fi areas. This was supposed to work if I'd done my homework. So the question is, I guess I didn't really understand what unlocked meant. And then when I did some research on it, you really like AT&T held the unlock codes for a long time on these phones, and I'm not even sure if they're still unlocking them because they don't want customers necessarily taking them off their network. So I've got to do some work with AT&T to see if I can get my Lumia 900 unlocked at this point. And today it doesn't. Right now it doesn't matter. It didn't matter on the trip all that much that I didn't have data because I didn't really run into an emergency situation where I needed it. I kind of lived life on the edge. I mean, 25 years ago when I was stationed over there, I used to drive around that country without a cell phone because cell phones didn't exist, 25 years ago. And I drove all up and down Germany, north, south. We went into Austria, went into Switzerland. I never even worried about having a phone. If something happened to me, there's phones all along the Autobahn that you could in theory call somebody.
So are we saying now that if you're cell phoneless, you're living life on the edge?
Well, that's what I felt like at times because I said to my mom, I'm like, what? I said, I got to admit to you, if we broke down, I don't have any way to call anybody.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a weird feeling, especially if you're in a foreign country.
and it was cold, and so what would if something happened to the car and it broke down? So to me, if it was just me, it might have been one thing, but it was me and my 82-year-old mother.
Right.
And so that was maybe a little edgy to be out there driving on the Autobahn. And there's not a lot between like Frankfurt and Würzburg. That's about an hour a drive. And once you get out of Frankfurt, there's nothing really. A couple rest stops, but there's nothing between Frankfurt and Würzburg. So I just felt naked in 2013, not having a phone to call somebody with if I broke down. I mean, we're just so dependent on that.
You're like Paul Miller from The Verge without the cell phone. Totally stripped of all technology.
Yeah.
For days. Wow.
And I know I was making fun of it, but I use my phone for GPS also. So I would better use it for GPS either, right?
No, the Sprint phone would not work because because Android's so tied to the data plan. You can't use it. You can't get your maps. This is why I took the Lumia 900, because I could download my maps in advance, and I was not dependent on having data because all the maps are there. And then the GPS worked.
Jeff Bunny out in chat. So can you buy one of those burner phones? One of those.
Yeah, Jeff, that would have been the right thing to do. Probably, I didn't even think about that. It's just from a vendor, just buy a burner phone and have it. That's a very good point. I just didn't want three. I didn't want a third phone. I guess. I mean,
your luggage.
Yeah, I'd have to bring it back. The other thing too, right, is if you haven't been to Europe, they have a little bit of a different, power plug as well. And so I purchased this. I purchased this adapter. They don't have a third prong, and these, of course, are spaced out really differently. Again, when I was there 25 years ago, you had, for all your electronics gear, whatever that was, there was no personal. I mean, we were just on the advent of personal computers, and laptops were gigantic. You would have to buy an adapter or an inverter, a converter that would take it from their 220 down to 110. Is that convert or invert? It doesn't really matter, but you would have to change it. Now on your laptops, and this is something I just learned when I stopped into the very helpful Radio Shack, all equipment now is almost made, all electronic equipment is made to automatically convert. So you just need the adapters at this point. So if you have any laptop, that little brick, it automatically steps it down from 220 to 110.
If it's not labeled, worry.
Yeah.
It gives off quite a smell. When you plug it in, if it's not auto switching,
you will know in quite anything probably made in the last 5 years is going to switch. I have a battery; it's sitting over there. I have a battery that I took with me as well, and I looked on the adapter, and sure enough, that even that plug adapter that you plug into the wall, it's about that big, not very big. It also steps down from it converted down from 220 to 110. So that was something new I learned traveling as well, is that the tech has gotten better, at least around the electronics equipment. Yeah, of course, always check the label, but so a $10 adapter is all I traveled with, where 20 years ago I had to take a big, you take this big voltage converter that would step it down for you.
Your story about driving, I like the chat comment when I'm talking about if you don't have a phone with you. Race Car Mike says, I just broke down and I can't tweet about it.
That's probably
point, but,
that's probably pretty true. You didn't, because I couldn't connect, I didn't spend a lot of time during the day on social media. So I was out on
looking at Germany.
Yeah,
you were looking out the window.
One of the things I did do that I really liked, and if you haven't checked it out yet, if you go out to the averageguy.me, so my personal blog, right hand side there is a camera roll, and hopefully, let me share that. I've got that up here. Let me bring that up real fast. So. Now you can do this. I think you can do this with just about any phone if you can install the SkyDrive app, because SkyDrive then will allow me to automatically upload any pictures that I take to this SkyDrive. Let me see if this is the right.
Yeah, I was watching it. It was that was neat to see the photos you were taking.
Yeah,
really cool.
And it would only upload once a day, so it was not like what I was hoping to do is.
How's it going to upload?
To have I'm in the wrong. Hold on one second here. I got confused. I'm in the wrong screen sharing app here. So let's take this here. So now you should see, this is skydrive.com, and this is the photo roll that I have, that I was taking pictures. So each day I'd go out and take 50 to 100 pictures, and then when I got back to the guest house, they would automatically upload off the phone, and it'd be available in real time at that point for just anybody that was that was looking at them. And the intent was that family and friends could keep track of what's going on over there. And you could do this with Dropbox or some of those other services. I think Box as well. But I really like the photo application on SkyDrive because it just looks nice. I mean, look at this. Look what I have up here. So down below, all the pictures I've taken are down below, so you can go to any one of those. I'll show you a picture of.
Go to one of you and your mom.
Yeah, let's go to this one. We were having a good time at that point. She was really having a good time. So this is in Paris. We're right outside Notre Dame, and I wanted to get Notre Dame right in the middle of that, so you can see that behind it. And then
very memorable picture, genuine smiles. It's nice.
Yeah, she was really having a good time, and so was I. And this is one of those ones where you turn the camera around, right? And I just I turn. This is not with the good side of the camera. This is with the front facing camera.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so it actually turned out, though it turned out pretty well. The thing I like about SkyDrive then too is, you see over here on the right hand side, it actually, because the GPS was turned on, you got some location information.
I'm the camera guy. So here's a question for you. Did you, other than your phone, did you bring any other camera?
No, just this. That's it.
Yeah, I think that says something right there, that the cameras have come and the phones have come along good enough. You're not getting DSLR quality, but you don't need it for the memories necessarily. You got good enough photos with this, and now you just have the one device to carry around.
Yeah, although I almost lost it several times myself. It was crazy. I kept leaving that phone places, but
you can do that with a camera too.
Yeah, no, right on. So there's some information here about these pictures as well on the right-hand side. So not only where I took it, and it's kind of crazy because before the show I was clicking through the locations, right? And so as I was clicking through the pictures, the location moves, and it follows. I mean, and this makes sense, but it follows the direction we walked. We came up and we went to the front. If you see here, we went to the front, and you just saw that moved over to the front of the building. And then we walked our way around the building, and you can see that little orange dot move around the building on each of the pictures as we move around. So it kind of keeps track for you of what locations you were in. At one point, we were taking pictures. Let me see if I can go back to that here. We were taking pictures from the water. Give me a sec here, because what we did in Paris is we took they have a riverboat. The river goes right through the center of the city, and things were blooming there. But man, it was cold. Let me just say that it was not.
GPS tagging your photos is really adds something to it. When you can pull it into a bigger map, have all of them into a map like you use in Lightroom or some of the other things you can use, and you can see all those different places you've been.
Yeah, well, and I knew I wouldn't remember everything. I knew I was like, okay, now where did everything starts looking the same. So like we were in 100 different churches. Let me see. There we go. So I was in 100 different churches. Now, I was having trouble with the GPS from time to time. I was going to mention, even when we drove, Germany is very difficult to navigate in. Their road signs are bad. You'd think they'd be better at it. The German culture is very efficient in what they do. Well, they're very disciplined, and you think that would be better. But man, their road signs are terrible. They mark nothing over there. It's like it's got to be a surprise,
And it's all in a foreign language.
It is. Now that kind of came back fast to me, which I was surprised. But so I was using the GPS. I mentioned this earlier. I was using the GPS, and about halfway through the trip, it started getting unreliable. So it would just quit. I would lose my GPS signal from time to time. And that's a little stressful, especially when you don't know where you're at. And so throughout the rest of the trip, it was not very good. So you'll see, like on this picture that I have up right now, it doesn't have, yes, I'm inside a big concrete building. So maybe it cut out there. But I was having some trouble with my GPS signal even outside in the car.
Yeah, I guess it would be nice if the phone would use the last known GPS.
Yeah, that would be good. Because in that building, I lost the GPS signal, so I don't know. Now, in this case, I know here, I'm in Rothenburg, and which is a walled city, an ancient walled city, and it snowed, and it was just picture perfect. We went to they have a Christmas store there where you can get all kinds of Christmas ornaments, and it was one of those magical moments when you're in there. But here's a picture.
What I would do, Jim, is take a picture outside while you still have GPS of the outside of the building, and that'd be your last photo before you walk in and take photos on the inside. And then later you can manually add that GPS data.
Yeah.
If you really want to.
No, that would have been a good point to do. So something good to do there. So this photo roll was kind of nice because it helped me kind of chronicle the entire the entire trip, and we're going to actually go back through these and have a book printed for my mom that she can take around and show folks.
And family and friends kind of watch this as a
so I would post it on Facebook. Each day I came in, I would post one picture to Facebook and say, hey, here's this kind of a snapshot of the day. And then I would say more pictures available, and I would put the SkyDrive location and actually I created a link for it, theaverageguy.tv/ME/Germany. And that worked all week when I was out. Anybody could have gone to that link and then just pulled it up.
Mm-hmm. I did.
Yeah, a lot of folks did. It was I got a lot of comments back on that. And let me kick that off from folks. That was just really fun to be able to do that. You could share in real time with people and get comments back and give people a really good feel for what you were doing. So that worked out real well.
Jim, it was great timing. I've been kind of reminiscing. I've got a lot of family, partly German, and seeing those pictures is awesome. I would love to get back there. I was there when I was 10 years old, and it was really nice.
It's a great country to go and see. From the German hospitality was great, and now that all of Europe is on the euro, that's new for me. And so now that all of Europe is on the euro, I didn't have to change money when I went from Frankfurt to Paris, which I had to do the last time I was there. It was the Deutschmark and the what were they on? What's the French lira? Oh. And so that's all in the last 10 years. That's all changed, and so that made that part easy.
Now, with your comments and insults,
Frank, you're right.
The polite insults about the German inefficiencies you noted. Hopefully, the country would be safe for me to visit. You haven't offended everyone.
Well, here's the deal, right? I mean, and it's all cultural, but like in the United States, we put our stoplights on the other side of the intersection, so that when you're stopped at the intersection, you can see the lights ahead of you. Mm-hmm. They put it on the same side of the intersection, so the car that is up front, that light is right there, right? And you have to kind of careen over to see it. Right, and
1,200 years to figure out a toilet.
Yeah, it's and I won't even talk about that, but it is. It's just, and the road signs aren't very good. They're not marked. Now, part of the problem is there's not a straight road in the whole country. They curve everything, and I don't know why, if that was just from old roads that went around farmers' fields and stuff like that. But you look at a map of any town in Germany, and it's 6 roads coming into the center of the city, and they all curve to get there. And then there's various roads around those, and there's a series of because they're narrow. I mean, they're really narrow in some places. We were driving in downtown Nuremberg, and it just, wide, like this wide. I mean, wide enough to get the car through, and that's it. And so that's why GPS is a must if you're going to have it, if you're going to travel it, because there are many times I came to an intersection and it's not marked. I had no idea. So here in the U.S., when you're on the interstate, about every half mile there'll be an interstate sign showing you what interstate you're on and what direction you're heading, right? So, good, I'm on I-80 and I'm heading west.
And there's a mile marker every mile.
Yeah, not so there, no. You get on the Autobahn, and you better know what city know the next city that's coming, because that's how they're marked. And again, it's not right or wrong. It's just a different kind of schema that you have to get used to. So you really kind of got to know. Now, when I lived there, after a while, you get really good at it, and you don't even think twice about it. But for an American going over there, not being as familiar with it, it's a little difficult to navigate the roads.
Either they're smarter drivers than us, we're just idiots, or
I think it's just a system, Mike. It's just, it's why do we do things? Because it started one way, and then it's so hard to change a system once you start it, right? And so they've just either never changed it, or they're just very used to it. The lights, instead of, ours go red, right? We're red, and then it goes green, and then it goes yellow, and then red, right? That's just the way ours work. Theirs go red, and then right before the green starts, the yellow, it's red and yellow together. Okay. It's almost like a race. It's like, dude.
And speaking of race, so I've never been over there, but my knowledge of the Autobahn is you just get on there and go as fast as you can go.
Yes, that's exactly the right impression. So the good news is that everybody follows the rules of, if you're slow, you stay to the right. Okay, so that works really well. When you never pass somebody on the right, you always pass them on the left, because you're always constantly trying to stay over to the right. But it goes. I mean, I put a Facebook post out that said, this costs so much, this costs so much. Being in the car with my mom going 100 miles an hour, priceless. Yeah, you can absolutely. You just drive, and I was going 90 at most times when I was on the Autobahn, and people were still flying by me.
Jim,
go ahead, Paul.
No, and thinking about that with no cell phone, right? It adds an extra level of thoughts going through your head with your mom, right? I can imagine. Yep.
Yeah. They just go ahead.
I was going to ask you about Germany. Looking at site visitors, 18% of visitors to my site are in Germany. So you would think, and that's my third highest country visiting. In UK and United States, you expect we're English speaking, right? But so I gather, can I guess that you found a lot of English speaking Germans?
I did,
wow.
And actually, they're very friendly if you ask them to speak English. So if you just walk up to them and start speaking English, they're like not as friendly. If you say, "Sprechen Sie English?" do you speak English? They were much more inclined to help me out if I asked them first if they would speak English. So very, very helpful when I asked in advance. And actually, we in the rest stops, to use the restrooms, you have to pay 70 cents to get in, 70 cents euros, or whatever they call that. And actually, if you go to a roadside bathroom in the United States, in most places, they're pits. Unless it's a really nice place, they're really bad. They keep in Europe, or in Germany especially, they were just super clean. You would put 70 cents in, on the way out, it would give you a ticket that was a credit for 50 cents. And you could use that there and that took me a second to figure out. And so I was standing there, and it was not taking my 50-cent piece. And a guy came up to me and said, he said, "Let me help you." And in an accent, obviously he was from Germany. So he got me through the thing, and he asked me where I was from, and I said, "Frankfurt." Well, that's not what he meant. He meant, where was I from in the United States? So I caught him downstairs just a few minutes later. And he said, "No, where are you from in the U.S.?" And I said, "From Nebraska." And he said, "Well, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, we're on our way I'm visiting. I used to live here." And first he said, "Well, where are you going?" I said, "Frankfurt." And I said, "Schweinfurt," which is where I lived. And he got this really funny look on his face, and he's like, "Why would you go to Schweinfurt? You come all this way. That's not a tourist town, right?" Yeah. So I had to tell him that I lived there and some of those other things. But he was very nice and very helpful. So that worked out pretty well.
So what would you use the ticket for?
You could use it as a credit then for anything in the, to buy soda or candy or any of those kinds of things. So, but I think, it kind of keeps it keeps customers in and other people out. And for whatever reason, they keep them super clean. So and we actually ate one of the times we ate at a roadside place, and it was as good. I mean, it was as good a food as you get in a restaurant. So it was really, I mean, it was a really nice, it was not McDonald's or Burger King that you would, you typically get here in the United States. So that part, that that part is to, I'm sorry, I'm watching the chat. That part worked out real well.
But I'll leave it alone.
Yeah. Yeah. You always run a risk if you're talking about bathrooms on the podcast. You always run that risk. So
if you were to go back now, what would you do different?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike. So Kyle Wilson, one of the guys that I've been chatting with back and forth, he's a listener here of the show, as well as he and I have been talking a little bit back and forth on Twitter. He had some suggestions. He was just in Austria. And so I'm going to actually agree with a lot of the things he said to me via Twitter. Couldn't make the show tonight, but he had some suggestions. So one is, and this was, Paul, this relates to you, take a portable, or if you really need internet, you need to take some kind of portable router or internet device with you. So your wireless router that you take with you, if you're going to be in Europe, take one that works in Europe. I would buy it over there, because you don't want to buy a U.S. plan and take it to Europe. You want to buy a European plan when you get there. Mm-hmm. So I would buy one of those hotspot devices if you can and use it over there. I think that would be, especially if you're going to need to be highly connected with maybe phone and laptop and those kinds of things.
Hotspot, that makes more sense. I was thinking bring a router over there that you bought at Best Buy.
Sorry. Yeah, take a wireless hotspot with you when you travel. Or if you're going to take a phone over there, one, make sure it's going to work when you're over there. And then two, and let me click that off of me. Sorry about that. The focus was on me. If you're going to make sure it's unlocked, if you need to put a SIM card in it. So that's something I didn't do in advance, was to have the SIM card or the phone in the right condition to have it unlocked. I made the mistake, Nokia sent me a Lumia 800 to test, and it came unlocked. And I thought that was a real simple thing, and I found out it really wasn't, getting your phone unlocked. So I would bring a wireless hotspot. He also mentioned that laptops and phones automatically adjust for the voltage differences. I just plugged my phones in and charged them off my laptop, and then plugged my laptop in. So everything was kind of coming off those ports. So I took the right cabling with me to make sure I could charge the devices, and I did use my laptop to make all the other charging connection points. So just double check, like Paul said, double check and make sure that it does switch over for you before you go. He mentions you can get a cheap SIM card, and that was pretty cheap, so you can take SIM cards over there, and it'll even give you a local number if you need it to get that done. So that was Mike. That was another situation where I asked the guy in advance when I went into the O2 store, do you speak English? And he said, oh, yeah. And we had a great conversation, so make sure you ask ahead of time. The French are particularly sticklers about that as well. And I realized when I got into France that I hadn't really studied any French. I was like, oh no, how did I get here and not study up on the language? That was a huge mistake. Fortunately, we didn't run into I didn't have to use it a lot, but that was
hold my French comments too.
Yeah. Oh, especially the way we use that here in the United States. Yeah. And then I think so. Another thing, maybe not from a technology perspective, but I would have, knowing I was going to be in France, I would have spent a little more time getting the basics down of the language, so I would know what I was getting myself into when I got there. It wasn't bad. We had a great trip, and it worked out really well. The camera thing was dynamite. At one point, I couldn't find the phone when I checked in the rental. And I couldn't find the phone, and I had slid out and had gone underneath the seat, and I had to go back and get it. But for 5 minutes, it was lost, and I'm thinking, oh, crap, what am I going to do if I lose this phone? Well, all the pictures had already uploaded to SkyDrive. So even if I lost the phone, I didn't have to worry about losing all those pictures.
Let me ask you this. So this is maybe a simple question and low-tech, whatever, but your phone. So you're using your phone for most of your pictures. Did you have an additional memory card in there?
Nope.
So you might want to do that too, because like I have the Galaxy S3, and I forget what it comes with, but I have a 64 gig card in here, and I probably would take more pictures than you. Everybody's going to take whatever amount of pictures is they would take. Everybody's different. I would probably take a ton, And so I would probably wipe my card so I have a fresh card, and you can get those cards, whatever kind of card they use, fairly cheaply, and have that so you can use your phone for your pictures.
Yeah. It's a good point. I probably would have started deleting pictures if I needed more space because I'd already uploaded them.
Yeah, and so if you've uploaded them, you're fine. If you have trouble uploading them, you really hate to get in a situation where you're having to delete photos.
Mm-hmm. No, right on. I totally agree. Jeff Bundy out there in chat had also mentioned about them flashing their lights at you when you're on the Autobahn. Just to go back to that, if you're in their way, they will absolutely flash lights. That means get the hell over. So, yeah, that happened a couple times. They also put cameras on if you're in their speed zones on the Autobahn, which a lot of people don't know. There are sections of high traffic where they limit your speed. If you're speeding in those areas, they just take a little picture of your license plate from the rear, and they send you a ticket. So that also works as well. Yeah, that's a good point, Mike. I didn't even think about storage, about picture storage, and if I had a DSLR, there we go. That's even more important, right? Because those are taking bigger pictures.
They are, but if you're going to carry your phone, you want a card like that. So I'm going on a cruise at the end of May, and I got to decide, am I going to bring along the DSLR? The great thing about a phone is look how small it is. If you have an iPhone, it's even way tinier than this. It's about, the size of this cap right here.
Yeah.
But, so if you're doing that, that's pretty small, but you want enough storage on there. You can hold all your photos. So I don't know if I'm going to bring along the SLR. I'm going to kill myself if I don't bring one and have all those beautiful scenes. But, I may not, looking at the places I'm going to be in, I'm not sure. I can get Wi-Fi on the cruise, but it is not free at all. It's like 65 cents a minute. And I'm not sure I want to be spending that. So I may just not do the Wi-Fi. And that means that they got to store them all on here until we get home.
Mm-hmm. But they take smaller pictures, and just depending on how many you take, I guess you just got to kind of do the math. I took 454 pictures, probably 500 in all, over the course of 5 days, and about 100 a day. Although I took 250 in Paris, so that kind of tells you how many I took on the other days in Germany. So I wasn't even worried about that. I thought, those pictures are probably small enough. I didn't have to worry about it.
And a guy's asking out in chat. So you had a lot of Wi-Fi problems, but I imagine those few times you got a Wi-Fi, the Lumia just started sending them up to SkyDrive at that point, right?
Yeah, I had automatically connected to the Wi-Fi at the guest house, and so as soon as I drove back in and I parked the car, it was starting to upload. And so I would get to the guest house, and half the pictures would already be uploaded by the time I got there. So that was really cool. I really liked that feature of being able to just have those pictures uploading and kind of being taken care of from that standpoint. So let's see, any other? Yeah, right. Okay, so Paul, let's talk a little bit about business travel, because that kind of carries a little different. I was pure having fun. The stuff I didn't really matter all that much. If I didn't have Wi-Fi, I just kind of waited. But certainly when you're out and about, and I travel for business a lot, so I need to have that kind of constant connectivity. But you mentioned already you've got a 4G LTE hotspot that you carry with you. But what else? What other things are you finding indispensable when you're out there?
Yeah, well, it goes way back to like late 90s when you're getting ready for a trip, and this shirt I'm wearing is from the late 90s.
Nice.
Getting some idea. You're going out to a trade show. I think it was Java 1 or what is this one? Solutions in Las Vegas. But yeah, I remember laying out stuff. You get the kids to bed at 9. You're trying to figure out, okay, next to your luggage, all the items you need, and you don't want to forget anything, because now I'm manning a pedestal in Las Vegas, and I'm in trouble if I forgot something. And it's the very next morning, and yeah, you're getting up for a 4 a.m. flight, so you'd make mistakes. But for the most part, back in late 90s, big honking computers, sometimes 2 laptops I'm flying with. I throw as many power supplies and junk in the luggage for checked-in luggage as I could, and then carrying the 2 laptops on the plane with me, and that kind of thing. So that's what preparedness was then. Of course, you didn't really have internet. 2000s come along, and I had some bigger trips like Hersley, England, and Sydney, Australia, and that's tough. Bringing batteries in the plane and making sure these DLT tapes, remember these?
Oh, yeah.
Getting through customs and hand inspection and all. If this thing was erased and I flew all the way to Sydney, the whole trip's a bust, and it sure
Right.
cost a fortune to get there. So travel tech for me has been a lot about how to make stuff like this survive the trip and carry it all with me in the plane.
Right.
And that was just a trip of a lifetime, a 14-hour flight. And you know, they're grueling trips. You're going to make mistakes. You're human. I left on a Saturday afternoon. You land in Sydney at 6 a.m. I was at work at 8 a.m. till 4 a.m. Tuesday. I was insane. I worked to 7 little kids a week later, absolutely exhausted. So
Yeah.
when you're in that mindset, your brain is making mistakes, and you're
Right.
constantly thinking, what adapter do I need? What do I need to take out of my hotel to work today? Just, you know, you get better at it, but you still mess up sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Shaver. You forget that, and you're buying the AA battery one at CVS for $10 the night
Right.
in the hotel,
Right.
that kind of thing. But focusing on the tech, mid 2000s, things get interesting. And I do very rare international travels, like once every 5, maybe 10 years. But Barcelona, Spain, that caught my attention. For one, you get in a hotel room there, and others on the phone on the cast here will laugh. At the front desk, they must be giggling at the dumb Americans because they just hand you the key, welcome, you know, have a good trip, and I arrive in the morning and I send you off to the room. Nobody mentions you got to stick the key in a slot in the room to have power. So you're fumbling around in pitch black. What the heck? You're leaving your door open so you can sort of see, looking for the circuit breaker. No clue. Totally unlabeled by the door. This little tiny slot near the doorknob. You got to slide your key in there or you have no power. It's like, okay, I had no clue. They'll even bother mentioning it. So those are the little tricks. But on that trip, I had a boatload of stuff. You know, the transformers, like you said, the right power tips for the adapters. And then finally, look at this. Here's my prop. So this looks a little ridiculous. Why the heck would I throw this in my checked-in luggage? Cordless phone. We got the ugly headset to go with it. Well, the key on why I was flying with it is because I'm sitting in Barcelona for a week, and I had phone calls to do in the evening, and I'm at a conference. So it's this Linksys with the built-in phone ports. So when we're talking about 2006, this is what you're doing for affordable internet. Skype wasn't there. Hotel Wi-Fi was terrible, but a wired Ethernet jack got me by, and I was able to make plenty of phone calls.
Make the calls that you needed to make.
Exactly. So that's, you know, mid-2000s. Canada, same thing. No Wi-Fi, no cellular connection, so I had to bring all my own stuff. And then when I was at a customer site, I was, you know, using that same Linksys to do voice ports. So I didn't have to bother them with anything. I just needed one Ethernet jack, and I could go about, well, downloading. So let's talk about that. You know, 4.7 gig ISO files. I was doing those 5 years ago, flying to Texas, Mississippi, and occasionally internationally. So I had to have my own pipe. Hotel, you could never rely on for that. You could never even get a 650 meg CD overnight and be done by 3 a.m. I had to get it done by, you know, 11. So I was working on software then, and often it'd be an image that we'd press or work on, and I'd have to test it on Monday, and then get a new one on Tuesday. So I'd go to 2-3 terabytes a week on 3G 5 years ago. So that would be 10, 15, 20-hour downloads going on in my hotel room while I'm at the customer site during the day. Just craziness like that. So unlimited internet was king and all, and that's all come to a crashing halt recently.
Yeah, it's completely changed, hasn't it? I mean, we've really made a revolutionary change. The guy is asking out in chat, he says LTE hotspots don't work in basements sometimes where a lot of IT stuff is located. Do you find?
Good point. Let's talk about that. So I held up props here. So here's, actually, let me share this out. So here's a prop. It's a cradle point. If you know what a cradle point is, you've got the Verizon USB dongle, I'm afraid to say that word, on the cradle point router.
You're good.
And we've got the ports in the back, and we've got, you know, a device all in one. Why would I buy something so big? Well, this is a brand new data center that had no Wi-Fi or anything for guests.
It is.
So here we were, a bunch of employees need to be productive. Yes, Mike?
That is a huge dongle, yes.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, that's why I was. Okay, so let me share out my desk here to quickly distract and stop him, if possible. And I'm going way too slow sharing out my desk. But here we go. I'll share out this one window I've got ready. All right, Jim, can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so why do I have the cradle point with an antenna next to it? Well, you talked about reception. So notice that little lead that's going from the dongle over to the external antenna. That's what's getting me decent signal. That tower antenna made a huge difference. You know, quadrupled the speed for 10 of us working there all week in a huge data center in Texas that had no Wi-Fi. Also, these 3 antennas. 802.11n was key, and we could make it like 400 feet into the building with this thing. So that's why I would fly with a ton of stuff on my luggage, for good reason. A little tiny MiFi would not cut it, and MiFis weren't prevalent then, back in 2007 or so.
Sure.
Let me show you the next photo. And there's a typical lab. We're deploying over 1,000 servers. How do you do that when the data center has nothing in it? You have someone mail you laptops. I fly with this little Ethernet switch you're seeing here, and I have them mail me some laptops. We plug them in. My cradle point is the internet for all of these. And can you guess what's on the machine under my cursor there? Well, the first machine I built gets Windows Home Server, of course. And then I restore identical images to all 5 machines at once. I was ready by noon. Wow. You know, I had, you know, if I get the machine going, install Windows Home Server by 9 a.m. on the middle machine, all 5 machines cloned with separate IP addresses, separate names, all running by noon. And all of them then ran a virtual machine, which helped clone and deploy and get our servers ready with an automated method. So this is the kind of crazy stuff you do when you're consulting and flying all over the country.
Right.
Who's the guy, the one guy you can get in a plane to bring a bunch of gizmos and gear and infrastructure to get all those 1,000 servers built by Friday before you're flying home? That's the kind of stuff we did. So that's fun. And, you know, trips to Fry's, stuff like that would occasionally happen because you couldn't possibly remember every little tidbit. So those are some of my stories. But yeah, the antennas are key. And let me go back to today here. And if I stop my screen sharing and back to my face here. So another data center had even worse internet, and you get to these ridiculous size antennas.
Oh, geez.
So it's, you know, 4 feet tall. You're putting it by the window. You're kind of thinking about, can I go through the wall? And because you know, you're there for a week, and there's a whole lot of people counting on you, and it's the kind of crazy stuff that happens.
Drilling holes at the customer site?
Didn't do that. We put it near the window, suction cups, held this thing near the window. I leaned the chair against the window, not suction cups.
Okay.
And this thing got me through a holiday where, you know, folks are demanding, can you stay through Christmas? No, but if you let me leave a Verizon 3G device behind and this giant antenna near the window 50 feet away and string this across the floor and put some duct tape down so no one trips, okay, I can at least keep tabs on it over the holiday. And because I could not use their internet, right? I had to have my own and on a private network, not connected to them in any way. So that's the kind of stuff you do, and I just kind of try to get you through about 15 years of tech, you know, ISDN and modems in the beginning in the 90s, all the way through today, where, wow, in the last 2 years I'm working from home more, and LTE, how that would have changed, you know, life, even using a Slingbox remotely. Over 3G, that was never quite a treat, and LTE would really, you know, let you actually watch TV and stream it to your hotel room in a distant land.
Paul, would you say the LTE Hotspot is your favorite device? I mean, is that kind of, if you could only take one thing besides your laptop, right? Is that kind of your favorite thing?
So let's talk about that. So here's the Verizon 4510L. It's not good. All right. The one behind it, before it, the MiFi 2200, I don't have that anymore. That was 3G, rock solid, could stay up for weeks without rebooting. This first gen LTE device, 4G LTE, on Verizon was just pretty terrible. It would reboot iOS devices it didn't like. Howard will laugh at that. It would spontaneously just not like them and drop your connection. All the things you don't want when you're trying to reliably download a 4 or 5 meg, a 650 meg CD from your hotel room that you want to get done in one 4 or 5 hour shot, not wake up the next morning and see that the thing's rebooted and you lost it, right? So this thing was pretty hateful. And flash forwarded today, basically this thing, an iPhone 5 on Verizon LTE is a whole lot better hotspot. Stable, doesn't get that hot, doesn't use much battery, just phenomenal throughput, and actually a faster upstream pipe than my home internet connection. Yeah. So yeah, things have totally changed.
And same thing here. I can get like 15 to 20 up on my phone, but only have
exactly. Isn't that funny, right?
Yeah. And
it's probably true with you, Jim Collison, too. You got Cox as well. You have a new.
No, my phone is not. I'm on Sprint, so not as fast. Not as fast. You guys on Verizon are flying. Sprint's still a little bit behind. Here in
Sprint.
Omaha.
You bring up I was in St. Louis, right? Headquarters for Sprint?
No, that's Kansas City.
Kansas City, that's where I was. Sorry, forgetting. Somewhere in the Midwest. Forgive me. Yeah. I've been to a lot of places, but there I am in Kansas City in a hotel room, like a mile from Sprint, thinking, okay, I had a Sprint version of this, one of these dongles back then, and I'll test it. And I also had a Verizon one. I had an overlapping plan, so I had two, and I was just testing them in the airport, testing in the hotel, and yeah, even then, I think it was 2007, just Verizon just trounced Sprint at all those spots, about double the speed, up and down. So not much has changed, frankly. Verizon still costs more, and
no, and you get
I've
what
had
you pay
Sprint,
for.
I've had Verizon, I've had AT&T, I've had them all.
Yeah, you get what you pay for, and if you want speed, you got to go with Verizon here in the U.S. And you know, for sure. And Sprint's coverage, some of the worst Sprint coverage I've ever had is in Kansas City. And you would think they would just blanket that city, and you know that's their headquarters.
Exactly.
I'm in the basement of my house. I just did a speed test, and I'm getting 15.6 up.
Oh, that's sick. That's just sick.
On my cell phone.
That is just, and you're Verizon, right?
I'm Verizon, yeah.
Yeah, you're Verizon. You know, it'd be interesting. I'd like to hear from some international folks, maybe Australia and in the UK, about who are their providers. That are they seeing that kind? I'm finding, you know, in both those countries they don't. The bandwidth is a struggle.
Yeah, UK I hear only has one LTE provider right now, so they're a bit behind us. They were ahead of us 3 years ago, but flash forwarded today, and what was that? This Week in Tech. They were just talking about that last week. Yeah, I'm running a little speed test here.
I hate you, Paul Braren.
No, this is a lie. Look at the top though. I blew it. Why isn't autofocus working first of all? But that's Wi-Fi. So I need to turn off my Wi-Fi antenna and run it again. But so this is Cox.
Yeah.
So we're now seeing 24 down and about 3.4 up. But I'm using about 400 megabits of that, you know, being on this Google hand.
Sure,
right now.
sure.
All right, so now let me cut over to LTE and let's see what we got. Okay, turning off Wi-Fi and running the same test again. Okay, get the focus going. So what this does for personal stuff, yeah, a Sling box would be great over this, right? It would be nothing to watch high-def TV. The problem is we all have bandwidth caps. So as good as today is, it's also a major step backward. Look at that. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Look at that up.
So you just witnessed, you know, Verizon LTE trouncing Cox. And all I get if I spend double my bill to do business grade Cox is higher downstream, not upstream. They don't even touch it.
Right,
at the top it says Verizon LTE. So there you go. A little live test here. We basically just got double in both directions on LTE versus a home cable modem. That's ridiculous.
What'd you say, Mike?
Strange thing on mine is I am getting only 4. That looks like it's backwards. I don't know why is that backwards. Anyway, I'm only getting like 4 up. Whoop, and the screen just went blank. I'm only getting like 4 up, but I'm getting 14 down.
Yeah, we didn't get the autofocus, Mike, but it wasn't backwards to us. So.
Oh, it wasn't backwards to you?
No, that's just.
So the guy says he's in Canada on LTE. He's getting 22 down and 17 up. That'd be great.
Ooh, he's got a really fat pipe up. So you know, video producing, pushing up to YouTube. That's awesome, right? Yeah. That's all the difference.
You talked about Cradle Point. So we have we're putting out in all our restaurants a little bitty, it's about this big, Cradle Point 4G modem that is running all of our running some of our infrastructure there, and it handles the volume really good. The ping, the latency is really good, and you know you could technically carry that around anywhere you wanted, and just as long as you had 4G connection, it would give you cellular internet.
Yeah, the cool thing, if I show you the back of this, we've got the Verizon device and then auto switch over to a WAN port. You'd wonder, why is there a WAN port? You know, well, you connect it to a cable modem. Yeah. So if your house's internet goes down, I actually used this in my home for a few months. My house's internet went down or was unreliable or flaky, it would just automatically kick over to the Verizon without doing anything. And of course, DHCP-fed client machines connected here over gigabit Ethernet would be fine. They wouldn't even care or notice, really. So seamless transfer of one WAN connection to another is, you know, that's Cradle Point's market, right? They're higher end.
And it was a Cradle Point device that we were using. They are about $300 a piece.
Not cheap, yeah.
Yeah, to give you the cellular thing. I guess I don't know if they would sell it to an individual. I guess they would. You can buy it as an individual and have it at your home. I don't data plan. I'm not sure about data plan because we have a special deal. But
yep.
Mike, you were Paul. Let me jump in there real quick. Mike, you had alluded to the price of data on the boat that you're going on here with the cruise, right? It's you're going to pay. What was that again? Did you look into that?
Yeah, it's 65 cents a minute, or they have, let's see if I still have that pulled up. They have prepaid plans where you can buy, up to 500 minutes at $150. The lowest plan would be $35 for 60 minutes. So if you buy one of the prepaid plans, you can get a little bit cheaper, down to, maybe a little less than 50 cents a minute.
Yeah, which is just robbery.
Yeah. What's your service level agreement and guarantee of bandwidth there, Mike? It's phone line.
No good.
Yeah, no. Hey, go on a cruise, man. Take some time off. I did, because my internet was limited. I'm getting a beep here. 1 second. Who's pinging me? I'm getting pinged from somewhere. Because my bandwidth was limited, I also found when I was out and about, I wasn't monkeying around with my phone 24/7, and I was actually looking at things. So it was actually handy for me on vacation not to have all that connectivity. Because when I was because me, I'm constantly checking my phone every 5 minutes when I'm out and about, seeing what's on Twitter or what's the latest update on Facebook or whatever, and
which your mom probably wouldn't have appreciated.
No,
Exactly.
she'd been like, put that damn phone away.
Yeah.
So so no, that actually paid off. Flying over there at Lufthansa was $20 for the whole flight. So you would get something like 6 or 7 hours worth of internet connectivity, and I did not do it, not because of the price, but I just didn't want to. I'm kind of I'll watch the movies, kind of deal.
Going back to what you said about not looking at your phone all the time. If you go to dinner now, if you go out with your family now, odds are, if you're like my family, when you sit down at the restaurant and you're waiting for your food to come, everybody whips out their phone and they're looking at their phone. Checking Facebook, checking whatever else you're doing.
Yep.
And like if your mom is like my mom or my mother-in-law, what are you doing? Why do you need your phone? What are you getting on your phone? And that whole, you don't have to worry about that when you. Take some time off if you're on vacation. If you're on business, it's different. But if you're on vacation,
yeah, which is why we play cell phone Jenga, right? We sit down and everybody puts their phone in the middle of the table and we stack them up, and then whoever touches their phone first has to pay.
Oh.
It kind of keeps people from grabbing their phones. It's not a bad little game to play if you're having trouble with everybody checking their phone. Paul, have you been? I was on Southwest. It's $8 now a day, so the unlimited number of flights during a day period for internet. Have you flown recently on any of their carriers, and what are they charging?
No, I think, let's see, GoGo Internet was on, you and I did the Google Hangout, right, as I flew over you a few months ago, and then Indianapolis. I think they've been on Delta, a lot of Delta, which seems to have a whole lot of Wi-Fi, even on their smaller, markets.
How much were they charging for it?
Oh, GoGo went up, didn't it? I think it was 12, and then it became 15, and I think it was 18 when I went and saw you in Indianapolis last fall. So it just keeps climbing.
Per
and they
flight?
want something high,
Segment.
or I could pay a monthly bill, which they encouraged me to sign up for. It's like, well, I don't fly that often. I fly once or twice a year.
Right.
So they're really just cranking it up. But the performance was decent. I mean, we were doing a Google video hangout with me sitting in the plane, right? That's crazy.
Yeah. Yep. Now, both Lufthansa and Southwest, the two I've flown most recently, discourage voice over IP usage on the plane. So they, Skype and Google Hangouts, because of the video component, they really discourage those.
Yeah, and we only did it for a few minutes, and there were no rules. There was no placard or anything in the seat back. There was nothing, no announcements, just Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And I actually, I used on Southwest, they have some games that are available for free. So I just, you can check your flight status. You can shop the Southwest site. So if you need to book something, this would be really handy if something went awry and you're on the plane and you need to rebook something else somewhere down the line. You can log into southwest.com on the plane for free and change your place, change flights or buy tickets or whatever. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty handy. And then there's a couple games, Sudoku and a crossword puzzle. And if you got absolutely nothing else to do, at least you can use those. You can connect to those for free. Southwest by far has been the best at $8 for multiple legs in a day. So if you're flying, say you have 3 legs, when you purchase it, it's good for all 3 legs of the flight.
For me, what was interesting was just thinking about that flight and the technology involved in you and I talking. We didn't do it long. We didn't abuse the Wi-Fi the whole journey. Just a few minutes to see if we could get video and audio going. And the answer was yes. That's what was neat to me about it. A lot of latency, obviously, getting from that plane down to cell towers, and then when you fly over the ocean, you're doing satellite, right? It's different depending upon the flight you're on too, with what antennas they use.
Yeah, it's just amazing to me.
Do you have any idea what kind of stuff people could do on that overseas Lufthansa flight? I mean, I don't know.
I should have purchased it just to do it and test it. I didn't. Again, it wasn't the money thing. It was just I didn't. Part of the problem was I was really jammed in that seat, and I made a commitment. I'm not flying anymore unless I'm flying business class overseas. It's just you're just so jammed in there, and so I really couldn't do much on my laptop, and so I just decided,
Yeah, flying to Sydney was coach, and that was in the days of an hour and 50-minute battery life. So I had 12 and a half more hours to kill. Sitting in the middle and for a middle seat, and it was long.
Oh, it's very long. Mike, any other thoughts on stuff that you carry when you travel, or we're coming up on a stop here? Anything else from you?
No, I'm still debating whether I'm going to bring along any other camera other than just the phone. In our case, we're on a cruise, so at some points, we have a little bit different scenarios than what you are. We do have the layovers at Nassau, St. Thomas, and St. Martin, where we might have some options there for Wi-Fi. So no, nothing other than what you.
Okay. Well, Rennie had said in chat, no Wi-Fi in United, at least on the flights that he had taken from. He flew Brisbane to. And Rennie, where'd you fly out of? Did you fly out of Sydney? But he came over to the U.S. and was here for a month. No, it doesn't look like United's making much progress, or at least on the flights he was on with it. I guess, if I was going to do a lot of traveling where I had those 8+ hour trips, I might carry 2 laptops with me, which wouldn't be that bad just from a battery life. Okay.
I guess the one thing I do need to do before I go is probably talk to my Verizon rep and tell them where I'm going and say, all right, what do you, is there anything do I need to get any different plan I can have just for this? Is there anything else you suggest? Because what do we say that the Verizon is CDMA?
Yeah. No. You're GSM on Verizon. So, but it's not the same GSM that they have in Europe. So it's you can't take a Verizon phone to Europe and plug a SIM card into it. It's on a different frequency.
Right. So I need to see what are my options when I go. I'll tell them the places I'm going to, and what are my options when I go there.
Yeah. The other thing I learned, Mike, is you want to be careful. That's a great question to ask, because say it had an AT&T phone which works on the right frequencies in Europe, and I turn that thing on, I start pulling data down. Yeah. I'm getting a whole different. It's like long distance calls, right? From another country.
The last time I went on a cruise was back in 2005 on a Disney cruise. Yeah, I think it was 2005. And we were out at the ocean, and my phone was working. So I bought like the international plan. So I thought that's why it's working. I'm out in the ocean, my phone's working. Look at it. Look how awesome this is. So I'm calling my office. Hey, how's it going for you suckers? I'm out here in the middle of the ocean, and I get home, and my bill was $500.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
That's why it worked.
Right.
So
yeah.
Those are things I want to avoid on this next trip. So one, I'm just not going to call the office.
Well, right. You definitely want to check. Check before you go. I was kind of, one of the things that is universal, Wi-Fi is universal no matter where you go for the most part. That's a universal standard. And so, from an international standpoint, no matter what device you have, if you've got Wi-Fi and you can make a connection to it, you can use that device anywhere and not take extra. We lost Mike there. Paul, is that you who've put that up?
Oh, I was just doing some screen sharing. I was going to show on the chat we had a question about caps and LTE, but yeah, basically in my family we're sharing gigabytes among 7 phones. But I don't travel as much for work. That would obviously be an issue if I started blowing 2 and 3 gigabytes, and now I've creamed the whole family's ability to surf the rest of the month.
Yeah. Well, and it makes you ask the question: do you download the movies to your devices before you go, or do you stream them when you're,
Yep.
That stuff can all count towards the cap.
So my Verizon bill is hard to show, but this Cox meter I can show. If you look at the shared desktop there, Jim, if you log into yours, you'll probably see something similar starting to go way over pretty much every month.
Yeah.
And look at this big red, this is Cox subtle hint that, hey, would you like our higher plan? Which, again, all it offers me is faster download, no better, fatter pipe upload.
Yeah,
I'm already on DOCSIS 3, but I can't go anywhere from here.
That's a bunch of crap.
Spending more money doesn't help. They just want to do caps. So they're not enforcing it, but they're kind of warning you, hey, you're way over what you should be doing on our plan.
Yeah. You and I have talked about that before, Paul. They're getting some new reporting out there that, hey, we're not giving you caps, but...
So I have an allowance of 300 gig, and last month I hit 585 gig with
I want to
during the home.
Thing that you said there, Paul. You're not way over on what you should be doing. You're way over on what they want you to be doing so they can charge you. It's all a matter
of
their networks can handle it. They just want to charge you more.
Well, sure, their business.
And the MSDN stuff I download for work and personal, and other vendors' code. I download at least 50, 60 gigabytes a month just for business use. So to start talking about metering it, it feels like late 90s when I was metered on ISDN.
I know we don't want to get too far off on this, but Jim, I know the business, but just be honest. Say this data plan, we're only going to give you this. It has nothing to do with the network capabilities, the capabilities of our network.
Right.
If you want to buy more bandwidth, you need to pay for it. Don't tell us that it's because of your network capability, because that's not true.
Yeah, and so back to the
talking about the what were you saying, the movies and stuff? We had the 64 gig cards in here. All four of us had the same phone with the same 64 gig. So that's what I would tell the kids. If you want a movie or something like that, let's put it on here before we go.
Yeah, and this is what we're talking about. It's travel tech, but this is the stuff you're thinking about before that big trip. Those 3 days before, what can we pull down before we go? And that's spot on. Whether you're at home or in your cell, you have to kind of think about it these days.
I took a audio file. I do some podcast consulting on the back end, and I took an audio file with me and edited it while I was on the first flight going out there. So that was my movie, so to speak, that I worked on while I was over there. And I get about 4 hours on my laptop. So I worked on it for about 2 or so. Didn't need internet connectivity to be able to pull that off, because one of the things I did do, and again, probably if you listen to this show, you've thought through this, but it's another thing to think about, is I used Dropbox to sync all the files that I needed that I was going to edit, so that when I was on the plane, they were there. When I would edit them and when I would come back and make a connection, it would automatically upload and sync those files again, so that I wouldn't have to even think about that or worry about that. So it was automatically, I could work on the file, drop it here, it would move it to my SkyDrive account or Dropbox, insert cloud storage here, and then that would drop back down on the laptop. So you got to think about those things too. What do I want to sync if I'm going to use something, or if I'm going to need files on the plane? Maybe one of the easiest ways to do that is to use one of those cloud services, and not necessarily the guy says USB port. Oh, no, it's not why he was saying that. He asked me the question. So anyways, think about your cloud storage as well. That's good or bad if you're connecting to the Wi-Fi on the plane. Lufthansa did not have electric outlets in our seats. I'm sure they did up in the business class and the first class sections, but not even a USB port, which would have been nice.
One more screen share, Jim, and you're just looking at it, since I moved from AT&T to Verizon last October, here's a family of 7, and here's our gigabytes per month. So this is the kind of thing I'm, keeping a careful eye on. Am I on the right plan? And are we doing okay? And it looks like, yeah, I'm fine. But, one trip in the middle of this, or a 2 or 3 gig day, and I could go past it. So that'll add up. That'll add up fast. But at least you get work done, right? So it's weird. You can actually blow your whole month plan though on a Saturday if you do a download or a home server VPN connection that accidentally you leave a laptop on in a hotel room. It could actually end up backing the laptop up, and 5 gig could be pumped out of your laptop in the hotel room. It's the kind of stuff I had to think about because I've got my machine so kind of jacked in. So when I travel,
and that's kind of what I was alluding to with your cloud storage. You got to be careful how much you're sharing that with. If Mike and I have a shared Dropbox folder and he doesn't know, I'm on the road, and typically he doesn't think about it, and he just drops a podcast in there or whatever. You never know, right?
Yeah.
You start downloading the second you hit the network. So there's some things to think about.
Yep.
Well, guys, I appreciate you answering the call on short notice. I felt like it would be good to kind of have this tech travel show. I've been wanting to do one like this for a while, just kind of talk about the things that we travel with. If you're listening to the podcast, you got some suggestions, some comments, some things you've learned, some stuff we didn't talk about, you want to correct us on something, send us an email, podcast@theaverageguy.tv. We'll post that out there. I can put it in the show notes or in a variety of ways, or tweet it or whatever. We're not infallible, so if anything you want to add to that, that would be great as well. Thanks for listening through. One of the things that was just kind of fun to talk about my trip in Germany, so I appreciate you letting me talk through that as well and listen to it. And hopefully, if you haven't gone out yet, head out to theaverageguy.me. Look in the bottom right-hand corner. I'll leave those pictures out for a while. If you want to take a look at if you haven't been to Europe yet, I took a ton of pictures, so you can, mostly Germany and in Paris, but they're out there. And if you have any comments, send me an email. Podcast@theaverageguy.tv. If you're new to listening to podcasts and you're looking for a way to listen each week and an easy kind of way to do it, you might want to consider using Stitcher. Stitcher is available for both Android and iPhone platforms. It's also actually on Windows and Mac as well, and it's a great way to listen to the podcast both home and on the road. Of course, this show and all the past shows are on Stitcher, Stitcher.com. Search Home Tech. It's education for your ears. And you can view you can view and subscribe to the show on YouTube, youtube.com/theaverageguy.tv, or catch the show each week. And by the way, thank you guys for coming out tonight. I know I'd canceled the show, and we had a whole bunch of people still show up. So if you're listening live, thanks for coming out tonight. We do this each week, 8 p.m. Central, over at theaverageguy.tv live. And don't forget that we have groups both on Facebook. That's just facebook.com/groups/theaverageguy. Yeah, The Average Guy. That's a great group, by the way. If you haven't joined us out there yet, you really should join us in the Facebook group. A nice group of guys. Daily conversation. You can post anything you want out there, get some good answers to your questions, or just enter into a conversation. Facebook.com/groups/theaverageguy. And we do moderate that, so it's a good place to be, /theaverageguy. And then, of course, on Google+, that group does not get hardly as much action, but you can find it. Just search for The Average Guy Podcast. And don't forget, if you're going to buy on Amazon, we can make a little bit of commission, which we roll back. And actually, we'll have a new giveaway coming up here in April for that. We just got an Amazon check from them. If you go to theaverageguy.tv/Amazon, when you're purchasing from there, we get a little bit commission back on those. And thanks to whoever did that during the month of March. It was a good month for us. No, are we in March? Yeah. In the month of March, it was a good month for us in doing that. Guys, Paul, Mike, thanks for coming out tonight. Guys in chat, thanks for doing that as well. Good conversation. And I made it. I'm awake. I didn't fall asleep.
Yeah.
Good job. You did good.
I've locked it in. Thanks for coming out tonight, guys, and thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week. We'll get back into the regular schedule. I got to get the guest host schedule. We'll get although if you haven't, go back and listen to the home networking ones that we've done over the last 4 weeks. A bunch of guys, including Paul. Mike, we didn't get you in on that discussion, did we? On the home networking?
You know, how many times can I come on and talk about PF Sense and Super
We just did. Lots of good. Those two, we had BYOB, the guys from BYOB on, Mike Martis, Mike Fauché, and then we also had Christian Johnson talking about his Windows Server 2012 Essentials box. So a lot of home networking going on. Check that out at theaverageguy.tv. Good night, everybody.
Good night.